Coming up on AgweekTV, the new tax reform package created an advantage for co-ops over some businesses. We'll see how it's affecting farmers and agribusiness.
Is there danger of a trade war with China? I'll have the story coming up.
Are we in for another drought year? And if so, how can we prepare?
Welcome to AgweekTV. I'm Rose Dunn. A planned increase in tariffs on steel and aluminum imports is drawing concern from the World Trade Organization. President Trump's proposal triggered a response from Canada, the EU, Mexico, Australia, and China. And the WTO is clearly concerned about the potential for escalation. Michelle Rook talked to farmers at the Commodity Classic about how a trade war could hurt agriculture, especially with China.
Uncertainty about trade under the Trump administration continues, with recent tariffs on Chinese imports of steel and aluminum leaving agriculture concerned about a possible trade war. That's especially true for the soybean industry, as China is its #1 customer.
Scares us to death because 60% of our soybeans are exported, and China takes a $14 billion worth of soybeans.
ESA leaders see Chinese tariffs on U.S. beans would be devastating to the market.
Well, I think it would be very negative in the short term, and it would take 2 to 3 or 4 years before we could recapture that market back again.
Corn farmers have also faced trade disruptions in the last several months, with Chinese tariffs on U.S. DDGs and ethanol, and they hope corn isn't next.
A trade war, if they would start putting tariffs on things, or tariffs on things coming out of the country, that would be detrimental to the U.S. It'll affect farmers' bottom line.
He also remembers the corn market reaction to China's cancellations tied to mere 162.
We saw, in the Viptera, we have contracts with them, and they prefer not to honor those contracts.
Ag Secretary Senator Perdue says there's reason for anxiety, but he's hopeful they can protect agriculture.
We need to have efforts that make sure that agriculture is not harmed in a way that would be hurtful in any kind of tariff negotiations. I'm
Michelle Rook reporting for Ag Week.
The president of the European Commission also says he'll bring forward a proposal for WTO-compatible countermeasures against the U.S. The herbicide dicamba has been getting a lot of attention lately. Spray drift caused a lot of damage to non-dicamba soybeans last season, leading to new regulations for application. So now it remains to be seen if 2018 will be a good year for dicamba or a bad one. Experts talked about both scenarios at the South Dakota Precision Ag Conference organized by SDSU Extension.
So if the label is followed and we don't have a lot of off-target movement in 2018, if that's possible with these new formulations of dicamba, then we can have successful movement forward in 2019 and farther with this product. But again, if we have a lot of complaints, lawsuits, a lot of damage off target to non-dicamba tolerant plants, then the label could be pulled easily by the EPA, or we have more further restrictions.
Schaefer thinks dicamba beans will account for 60 to 70% of South Dakota's soybeans in 2018. North and South Dakota and Montana struggled through drought conditions last year. While much-needed rains in August and September brought relief for many, was it enough to carry into this season? And what can producers do to mitigate the risks of another dry year? Jenny Schlecht has some advice.
Daryl Richardson says there never have been 2 drought years like 2017 in a row in North Dakota. But even an average year in this region tends to be dry, making management decisions on the farm or ranch vital in 2018.
We can't forecast tomorrow perfectly, let alone a season. But I just look at clues and see what those clues are hinting at.
Meteorologist Daryl Richardson is the interim director of the North Dakota Ag Weather Network. It supplies vital information to farmers, and he says the clues point to some good news in the 2018 forecast.
But I really think 2018 might not necessarily be wet, but I was really leaning close to average, which would be a noticeable improvement from last year. But because last year was so dry, even average probably wouldn't quite make up for it.
Richardson's forecast also calls for a cool start to spring that could delay planting. Mark Liebig, a research soil scientist at the Northern Great Plains Research Lab, says growers in dry areas may want to cut back on water-loving crops like corn, soybeans, and sunflowers, and increase dry weather crops like pulse, flax, and canola.
All of these have trade-offs, and we want to have diversity, but if you put all your eggs in a high-risk basket, then you're really rolling the dice.
No matter how 2018 shapes up, livestock producers need to be aware of the stress put on pastures last year. Most probably haven't fully recovered, so develop a plan to avoid overgrazing this year.
If we have a pasture in 2017 that was grazed a little hard, my recommendation is to defer turnout in 2018 to get the grass to recover. Some of their options are looking at grazing crested wheatgrass fields or brome grass fields, which are about 3 to 4 weeks earlier than rangeland.
2018 may not end up being as dry as 2017, but speakers at the Farming and Ranching for the Bottom Line Conference say it's still important to plan for moisture deficits. In Bismarck, this is Jenny Schlecht for AgWeek.
Richardson says even if April and May are dry, the picture can change significantly with June rains. Coming up on AgweekTV, the new tax reform package created an advantage for co-ops over some businesses. We'll see how it's affecting farmers and agribusiness.
I'm 120, 130, 130, 55, once around the block, 212, 5 right here, now having time's up. So
if you're thinking about selling a piece of land, or you're looking to sell some farm equipment, or if you're thinking about a retirement or involved in an estate, give us a call. We'll sit down and tell you all about the Steffes way. We think it's a good way. That's how we approach it. If any of those are in your plans, give us a call or go to steffesgroup.com. Learn all about us. Hope to hear from you.
Get your row crops off to the right start with an early riser Case IH planter from Titan Machinery. Case IH early riser planters feature high-tech yet rugged planter row units that quickly adapt to the toughest seeding conditions, while leaving an optimal seed bed to promote early, uniform plant emergence. Only Case IH early riser planters are designed to leave a flat-bottom seed furrow, ensuring consistent seed depth and even emergence. Contact your local Titan Machinery location today for more information on the next generation of planting technology from Case IH.
Intelligent farming means more crop from every acre. That starts with smart machines and precision application. Introducing the new Rogator C-Series from Challenger, featuring a newer, smarter, more precise way to apply fertilizers and nutrients, more accurately and more efficiently than ever before, resulting in less overlap and less crop damage, all to make you more productive and more profitable. To find out more, contact Butler Machinery today.
Small or large, Superior Grain Equipment has a storage solution for you with a wide variety of bin options and accessories, along with site planning and superior customer service. Plus, from top to bottom, we offer the industry's best bins and warranties to protect your products and your grain storage investment. Get superior quality, protection, and reliability with generations of experience and dependability. Make the superior choice today with Superior Grain Equipment.
Dream of building a new home, garage, shop, barn, or commercial space? What if you could create your ideal building for less than you ever imagined? Want to build a cabin in the woods, a workshop, storage space? Then call your Hanson personal building designer now, and we'll include professionally engineered, sealed plans to your new building absolutely free. Save up to thousands of dollars. Build your ideal dream for less than you ever imagined. Call now.
The Hoban-Thune amendment in the tax reform package gives a tax advantage to cooperatives over other corporate grain marketers. As a result, some farmers and even corporate elevators are considering creating their own co-ops as a counter to the market destabilizing effects of the so-called 199A tax reform provision. Mikkel Pates talked to several experts about what it all means to farmers and agribusinesses.
This is a game changer in the grain industry and will reshape the grain industry and the farming communities forever if this goes through.
Minn Kota Ag Products has been in business in Breckenridge for 80 years. George Schuler is the fourth generation in management. It's a privately owned elevator competing with several co-ops in the region.
We've seen significant rallies in the markets here in the last week and a half to 2 weeks. Are we missing out on this business to local cooperatives? We very well could be. Right now, we're actually in the process of starting a purchasing cooperative if this thing doesn't get changed, just because we need to continue to survive.
Schuler says it's going to put a lot of pressure on family farms. Just 2 months in, he thinks seed costs could skyrocket because some seed companies aren't co-ops and don't qualify for the deduction.
There's some unintended consequences. This is actually a lot more complicated problem and issue than people first were aware of.
Frayne Olson, an NDSU ag economist and director of the Quentin Burdick Center for Cooperatives, says part of the complication stems from the fact that not all co-ops are the same.
The intent was to try and provide some benefits and have something similar to what we had before. But the simplification process was really oversimplified and provided a tremendous benefit for cooperatives like grain elevators that were marketing grain on behalf of their members versus the sugar processors that are more processing based versus a marketing based co-op.
Accountant and business consultant Mark Giddings thinks a preferred solution would be for a family farm to form a co-op as long as they can comply with the rules.
Just like a farmer forming a partnership or forming a corporation, he can form a cooperative. And the requirements to form a cooperative is that you have at least 2 patrons. I mean, you don't have to have 500 patrons to be a cooperative.
Randy Martinson, president of Martinson Ag Risk Management in Fargo, says some of his clients are waiting to make sales until they determine whether equity will be restored between co-ops and private companies. But that could mean that they're not benefiting from current market improvements.
Producers are still somewhat in that conundrum where they don't know where they should sell their grain at. And I think, at this point, we've got an advantage of making some sales in the market. The tax advantage, I think, is something that's secondary. It's better to take advantage of a market that's given us an incentive to sell than look at a tax break that possibly could be there down the road.
Olson believes Congress will fix the law, and he thinks it will be retroactive to the beginning of the year. While some will lose some benefits they were expecting, he thinks it will be made more fair for everyone. In Fargo, this is Mikkel Pates for Ag Week.
Schuler says Senator Hovind's office tells him they are working on a fix. As calving season gets underway, some producers were hampered by the heavy wet snow and strong winds that hit much of the region recently. Agweek's Mikkel Pates traveled to west central South Dakota near Midland, where he found Steve Daly working in his barn with his sons. They started calving the first week of March, working through 400 black Angus beef cows. About 22 heifers had given birth when Mikkel stopped on March 6th. Daly's part of the state was hit pretty hard by the drought last summer until rains came late in the season. But they're very dry again now, so despite problems for the calves, they're happy to see the snow.
Hopefully we can keep all the calves alive and get a little moisture out of it at the same time, and then it's supposed to warm back up later in the week, so I guess if it's moisture, we better take it when we can.
The barns are fitted with cameras, allowing the Dalys to constantly watch things when calving is imminent via their smartphones. Steve also built a bedroom above the calving barn for closer proximity during the busiest times. Is there more winter weather heading our way? Your agri-weather forecast is next, and later?
You're about to meet a one-time North Dakota farmer turned satellite imagery pioneer.
Get ready for the biological revolution. Agzyme by Ag Concepts is the leading biological soil enhancement product on the market today. Agzyme improves soil health and fertilizer efficiency for healthier crops and better yields.
Definitely is making a difference. I really feel that it gives me a bump in the soybeans and corn. I would say 55 up to 70 bushel soybeans. We've even had as high as 75. Probably the best bang for your buck.
Join the biological revolution with Agzyme by Ag Concepts.
Advanced Grain Handling is your regional dealer for grain handler dryers, bins, and accessories. With Grain Handler's continuous mixed flow drying systems, you're capable of high levels of grain dryer efficiency on all types of grain, including seed grain. Advanced Grain Handling also carries West Steel's quality stainless steel products for on-farm and commercial grain storage solutions. Advanced Grain Handling has licensed and trained service techs and a licensed electrical shop. Get a hold of Chad Kylo to find the perfect solution for your farm.
Stein Seed Company is home to one of the most prolific, highest-yielding corn and soybean breeding programs in the world. When it comes to research, yield is what matters most. With the largest private soybean breeding program in the U.S. and the industry's most aggressive corn research, Stein is in a class of its own when it comes to developing new, higher-performing seed. Choose genetics. Choose results. Give Shane Kylo a call at 701-866-9864 to learn what Stein Seed can do for your operation.
For over 40 years, Northside Implement has been your Gell and Vermeer dealer in Webster, South Dakota and Lidgerwood, North Dakota, with new equipment including feeding, grain handling, haying, and skid steer, as well as a nice selection of used equipment including sprayers, spreaders, seeding, as well as tractors and loaders. Northside Implement stands behind the equipment they sell with quality service guaranteed. See us for all your repairs and parts from tillage to skid steer loaders to combines and everything in between. Contact Dave, Liddell, Mike, or Chris today at Northside Implement or visit our website for our complete equipment listings.
Levosol is the most advanced nutrient efficiency solution, making phosphorus, zinc, and other key micronutrients more available to the plant. With 3 modes of action, it unlocks the nutrients in the soil. It makes the nutrients that it's applied with more available, and it is mobile in the plant for season-long activity. For more information, talk with your agronomy partner or visit wcdst.com.
It has always impressed me how in the wintertime one snowstorm can sort of change everything. Suddenly, most of the northern plains has plenty of water in the soil, or at least sitting on top of the soil. It has not soaked in yet, but it's there. And of course, some of that's going to run off. But this is why you should never worry about a drought in the northern plains in the wintertime. Once the snow is melted, the frost is out of the ground. If the soils are dusty, then you can start worrying. The present outlook is for lingering cold and potentially more stormy weather. Of course, that always depends on storm tracks, and that is tricky. For the time being, we have a very high amplitude weather pattern. This weekend, the stormy weather is mostly along the eastern seaboard, where yet another nor'easter-type storm is taking shape. Ridge of high pressure to the west of the northern plains will bring in milder weather for the start of the week, maybe some 40s by the time that ridge is right over the area. However, the next weather system may bring in a chance of some precipitation to the area sometime late in the weekend, and so we'll have to keep our eyes open for that. Maybe like a St. Patty's Day weekend or shortly after that, storm system somewhere into the northern plains. Cannot say exactly where, but you see the general idea is that next wave lifts out and brings some kind of a system into the region. After that, I think the ridge of high pressure will try to kind of build back a little bit. So overall, the outlook is not quite as cold as it's been, but generally average to below average temperature pattern for the time being. The cold weather this week is mostly going to be down here along the eastern seaboard and across the northeast. Fairly nice span of warm weather coming up through the southern plains into the Rockies, but before that really takes shape, we'll see that beaten back down by this potential weather system about St. Patty's Day, which will likely bring colder weather back. Could be another rain to snow system. Again, I can't tell you the placement. Once we get into next week, the weather looks generally cool, which by this time of year means not all below freezing, probably a lot of above freezing days, but some maybe below freezing days, and definitely the nights generally still on the lower side of freezing. So that's the way that looks. What about beyond? Can we look ahead a week or two? This is just a gander looking at what the models are hinting at, the overall teleconnections around the globe. My suspicion for the last week of March, the first week of April, is we'll continue to have a below average weather pattern across northern plains and southern Canada. This does not mean by late March and early April, this does not mean below 32. It just means a lot of 30s and 40s and maybe some days colder than that, maybe even some 20s if we get a cold spell. As far as moisture goes, I don't dare try to predict where the storms will be 3-4 weeks out from now, but the overall prognosis is it's looking probably fairly wet. So after the storm, we're lingering with the cold weather, and there is more chances for moisture.
Luckin Trucks and Parts sells quality used parts for all makes and models. With over 50 acres of trucks and parts and new inventory arriving daily. Family owned and operated since 1966, Luckin's specializes in the sale of quality used medium to heavy duty truck parts as well as pre-owned trucks, trailers, and construction equipment. If it's on a truck, we got it. Call us today and let us get you your part.
Intelligent farming means more crop from every acre. That starts with smart machines and precision application. Introducing the new Rogator C-Series from Challenger, featuring a newer, smarter, more precise way to apply fertilizers and nutrients, more accurately and more efficiently than ever before, resulting in less overlap and less crop damage, all to make you more productive and more profitable. To find out more, contact Butler Machinery today.
Superior Grain Equipment offers storage and drying solutions designed for your grain handling needs. Mixed flow grain dryers from Superior offer even heating to reduce heat stress cracking, so you get higher quality grain, higher test weights, and better prices. Plus, they use half the energy of conventional screen dryers. Experience cost savings and superior grain conditioning. Make the superior choice today with Superior Grain Equipment.
Get your row crops off to the right start with an early riser Case IH planter from Titan Machinery. Case IH early riser planters feature high-tech yet rugged planter row units that quickly adapt to the toughest seeding conditions, while leaving an optimal seed bed to promote early, uniform plant emergence. Only Case IH early riser planters are designed to leave a flat-bottom seed furrow, ensuring consistent seed depth and even emergence. Contact your local Titan Machinery location today for more information on the next generation of planting technology from Case IH.
North Dakota is home to a prominent ag tech pioneer. Lanny Faleide started out as a farmer, but in the 80s, his love of technology led him to develop a company that's now called SatShot. It offers online and mobile analysis of satellite imagery for the ag industry, and his work has been praised by NASA. Jonathan Knutson has more.
It's been really a fun trip.
For 24 years, Lanny Faleide has been using technology to help farmers improve their bottom line.
I'm trying to take what that engineer created, or that company, and relate it to agriculture.
Now they can even use smartphones.
This is right to the John Deere tractor and right to their system. And you can put rates in it, and you can call up the tractor and say, John Sprayer, #1, and it'll go right to that machine, and you start spraying with it. So the transfer of the data into the machine is what we've been specializing in automatically.
Faleide farmed in the Maddock, North Dakota area, but he always enjoyed technology. In 1989, he began working with satellite imagery remote sensing to get a view from above.
Everybody assumes that their fields are great till you look at them. And when you look at them from above, you see more changes. So that field's got big problems.
Faleide is disappointed that farmers haven't been quicker to embrace the technology.
You got a radio in your car and you're not turning your radio on.
Most of the company's clients are in the U.S. and Canada, but it has clients elsewhere too. For Ag Week, I'm Jonathan Knutson.
Jonathan has much more on Lanny and aerial imagery in the next Ag Week magazine. Still ahead on AgweekTV, sustainable ag is growing in North Dakota.
Stein Seed Company is home to one of the most prolific, highest-yielding corn and soybean breeding programs in the world. When it comes to research, yield is what matters most. With the largest private soybean breeding program in the U.S. and the industry's most aggressive corn research, Stein is in a class of its own when it comes to developing new, higher-performing seed. Choose genetics. Choose results. Give Shane Kylo a call at 701-866-9864 to learn what Stein Seed can do for your operation.
Where do you go for the latest news in agriculture? Ag Week magazine. Reaching over 70,000 farmers and ranchers in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Montana. Ag Week provides the most up-to-date information on the markets, the trends, and the people who make it all happen. We're your source for news, not fluff. Dependable, trusted. Ag Week. Subscribe today by calling 1-800-811-2580.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to SaveTheFood.com.
I'm Jenny Garth. And as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. Even though we are one of the most food-rich countries in the world, 15 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. This is unacceptable, and something the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is working to solve. Instead of accepting that our country lets billions of pounds of surplus food go to waste every year, Feeding America has made it their mission to help families in need by rescuing this food. Through food pantries and meal programs, the nationwide network of food banks provides more than 3 billion meals, serving virtually every community in the United States, including yours. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by visiting feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
The Northern Plains Sustainable Ag Society is based in Lemoore, North Dakota. It includes comparable numbers of members from the Dakotas, but also members from Minnesota, 20 other states, Canada, and Germany. And due to its growing popularity, the organization is on the move. Mikkel Pates has more.
People want to know where their food is coming from, how it's produced.
The Northern Plains Sustainable Ag Society will move its annual meeting to Fargo after a long run here in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Not enough space in the convention center for all the things that we would like to do and our members would like to see.
One of the reasons the Fargo Holiday Inn was chosen as next year's location was their willingness to meet the needs of the Sustainable Ag Society.
One of the things that we look for is for a facility to allow us to bring in organic, locally grown food. That's beef, pork, turkey, to provide the menu.
Blaine Hitzfield, an Indiana farmer who practices grass-fed regenerative ranching, says one of the biggest challenges his industry faces involves misleading labels.
A lot of the mainstream supermarkets have caught on to consumers' demand for grass-based production practices. So you have a lot of greenwashing going on in stores regarding labels. For example, with grass-fed, 90% of the grass-fed beef sold at retail in the U.S. is imported from other countries. It's still labeled as product of the USA, because what qualifies that is if the product was produced and processed in a USDA facility. That USDA facility can be offshore. Most consumers wouldn't know any better. If they wanted to support U.S. ranchers, they don't have the means to do that via the labeling and the greenwashing that's in supermarkets. We don't even like to use the USDA labeling system because it's a broken system that doesn't transfer any amount of authentic value to the customer.
So a business that has great potential also has many challenges. For Ag Week, this is Mikkel Pates in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
National Ag Day is March 20th, and Ag Week is having a photo contest to celebrate. Send your best high-resolution farm, ranch, or rural photos to news@agweek.com by March 13th. Then vote for your favorite on agweek.com from March 18th to the 24th. The top 5 winners will be announced in the March 26th edition of Ag Week magazine, shown on AgweekTV and on agweek.com. Thanks for watching this week's edition of Ag Week TV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. We'll see you next week.